Hey everyone! Welcome to episode 2 of Behind the Practice, where we highlight people, products, and processes serving the dental community. Our podcast is brought to you by DentiMax, and I am your host, Alicia Dieujuste. And today, I am so excited. We have our lovely guest, Maria Jackson, on with
Thank
us. And
you.
yeah, welcome, Maria. Maria is a CRDH. And she's been in the dental industry for 20 years. I had the pleasure of meeting Maria about 4 months ago.
Yeah.
And Maria, tell us about yourself. Tell us about your dental story and how you got to where you're at right now.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. So I've been in the dental field for about 20 years. I've been a dental hygienist for about 17 of those years, and somewhere in between, I really wanted to kind of pivot into a non-clinical role. There was a lot of things that happened personally. I was trying to get pregnant for the longest time. I suffered through infertility for about 7 years, and I went through a lot of IVF. And when I finally got pregnant, I realized, it would be really, really hard to stay in clinical, kind of stuck from 8 to 5, 8 to 6. I was staying in the office sometimes at 7.
Wow.
I don't know how realistic that would have been after
Mm-hmm.
my child was born, but at the time, I was working with these really great doctors that were very, very understanding, and they let me go earlier. But throughout my pregnancy, I actually suffered carpal tunnel syndrome, and I was just so swollen and just so big.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was really, really painful all up until I gave birth, and I ended up having surgery 6 months after. So
Wow.
within that time frame, it really did get me to think, what if I can't do what I love to do and see patients because all I have is my hands? I've taught
Right.
dental hygiene before and I loved it, but I just didn't see myself doing that 24/7, not at the time. So I
Yeah.
started really venturing out to different categories, different within the dental field. I knew I never wanted to leave the dental field, but I just didn't know what to do.
Hmm. Yeah.
And at the time, I was working for a DSO that had partnered with an AI automated perio charting software, and
Okay.
I was already working, giving feedback and, being the liaison between that company and the DSO. And my first thought process was to, go to them, see if they had any openings, see if they were hiring. And that's when I kind of knew I really wanted to pursue AI or a job within the AI field.
Hmm.
And after interviewing heavily, I actually wasn't really getting anywhere. So I also had to just give myself a couple weeks to figure out if is this the path I really want to go and if I want to do this or if this is really not meant for me. So I
Hmm.
ended up deciding getting a master's in AI after that. And I applied heavily for a whole year. I interviewed heavily without hesitation. It
Hmm.
was just not the right timing.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're kind of like me when you decide to go for something, you just jump in the deep end all the way. And you're
And
like,
and that sometimes
no
gets
big
me in
deal.
trouble.
Yeah. You're like, what's
Yeah.
that? Yeah, I'll work it out somehow.
I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm like,
Right. Newborn, no problem. Surgery, no
yeah,
problem. Let's just go get our masters. No problem.
it wasn't my intention, but I realized I felt like I wasn't being taken seriously. And
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm going to get my master's and I'm going to show all these companies are going to regret their decision. And I'm just going to go for
Yep.
it. I really I saw myself in the industry
Hmm.
helping out startups,
Yep.
knowing what I know. So
Right.
I did it.
Yeah. And wow, what a valuable resource that's in your brain and the knowledge of having to be chairside and do the work and what kind of input you can give to a technology company because of that. Like you've lived it, you've done the job. And for anyone to not consider that and use that to their advantage is silly.
Yeah. And it's hard, right? Like you have thousands and thousands of dental professionals. Like I hear it every
Mhm.
day. Dental hygienists are
Yeah.
trying to get out of the industry mainly because
Yeah.
they're burnout, right? Like they
Yeah.
are
It's
tired,
a
their
hard
bodies
job.
hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a
Yes.
very repetitive job. So
Yeah.
I felt like I had capped out. I felt like I wasn't
Mhm.
growing anymore. So that's
Mhm.
another reason why I felt I needed something else to keep growing and kind of spread my wings. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the way how I went about it. But you hear it all the
Yeah.
time. You hear hygienists trying to leave the industry, and because so many are applying, there it's just really hard to not physically get through all the applications, get somebody. I mean, now you have AI robots, bots that are going through
Mhm.
resumes and they're reading through all. So it's really hard to get like really pivot and land a non-clinical job.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I think you were really smart, especially in focusing on AI specifically. Um, Obviously, everything right now is AI. Every company is trying to figure out how to work in AI into their business, either even just for internal operations or customer facing. And
Yeah,
so I think you're right on time with your skill set, your knowledge, your background, and the degree behind it all so that,
yeah,
you can be taken more seriously. And you know, I think there's a lot of clinicians, not just hygienists, but I think there's a lot of dentists too, kind of
yeah.
experiencing a bit of the burnout like you talked about.
Oh yeah,
Um it's Dentistry is hard on the body for the clinical staff. I mean, you're constantly hunched over in the same position, not even, to mention the carpal tunnel, the hands, and all of that.
yeah.
I got carpal tunnel and did surgery on my wrists and my elbow, and that was just from typing at the front desk. So,
Wow.
let
Yeah.
alone using all the instrumentation. So, it is a hard job. And I'm curious, do you see that there's, outside of hygienists, do you see other dentists kind of leaning into AI and looking on the technology side more so and trying to get out of practicing dentistry too?
To my surprise, yes, there's definitely a lot more hygienists, but there is a lot of dentists because reach people reach out to me all the time, and I've gotten a lot of dentists that want to explore more possibilities within AI as well, and they're just curious, right? Because
Mhm.
their office is using AI tools and they have diagnostics or automated
Right.
period charting systems, and they're very curious to know what that looks like. And how they can, not only help but grow within that industry or that side of the industry too. So some
Mhm.
doctors are reaching out to work part-time. They still want to work
Yeah.
clinically, but they want to kind of see and get their foot in within the AI space. Or some people want to just completely just cross over and just work from home, have the flexibility, or they've been working chairside for a long time and they just
Mhm.
want something different.
Yeah, definitely. And you actually, aside from getting your master's in AI, you went ahead and you started your own company, and it's all about AI, dental AI solutions. Tell us about your company, what you do there, how you help practices, clinicians, providers, all of that.
Yeah, so I started the company really based on my own experience trying to pivot into this AI startup world. As I was interviewing, I really wish I had the support or someone to lean on for advice or
Mhm.
just for a little bit of insight because
Yeah.
I just wasn't really aware as I was interviewing and, the whole time I was looking for something very specific. I personally didn't even know what I was looking for.
Yeah.
I just knew I just
Yep.
wanted to be in the AI space. I didn't know exactly what that looked like. And every interview I did, I learned a little bit more. And I offer a manual in my course, and that's everything. I've interviewed from beginning to end, uh, step to step guide, what that looks like, what's the verbiage like, what are the type of
Hmm.
roles that you're looking at if you once you're on this side,
Yeah.
what do the contracts look like? They're completely different. As a dental professional, you have a lot of roles that are under a W-2, whereas with the
Hmm.
startup companies, you are kind of like your own company and you represent yourself and you're a 1099. So not
Yeah.
always do you
Right.
have the same opportunities as chair side, but it just looks differently. And I just wish I had that support. So I ended up building a business basically around that. So I help with resume building, interview
Hmm.
skills. I try to prepare the dental professionals outside of clinical and based on their soft skills, what they have to offer to these companies and what those titles exactly are like so that they're
Hmm.
better guided and they know exactly what they would like and based on their background. And then at the very end, I kind of do a little matchmaking, right? Like I get approached by a lot of AI companies to work myself and I can't work them all. So what
Hmm.
I figured was why not spread the love
Right.
and, help other dental professionals that are trying to pivot into these roles and just help them get those roles as well, just with a little bit of guidance. That's all.
Yeah, I love that. So you've got the technology piece, you have the dental piece, you have the consulting piece, you've got the coaching piece. It's like the whole package.
Yeah, I mean, I tried
It's
to I I used to train dental hygienists and I used to do coaching
Mhm.
for like the longest time within the clinical space, right?
Yeah.
Seeing patients and helping them through the processes and helping them through the clinic, helping them understand the technology piece of it,
Mhm.
training different technologies and dental professionals through the offices, but I figured I haven't seen anybody who does what I do. There is a lot of coaches out there, a lot
Yeah.
of coaches, a lot of people do the resume and the LinkedIn and all of that, but there's nobody that I know of who's in the dental AI space that's
Mhm.
giving you those warm introductions into the AI space that will also provide all of that. And I've
Right.
worked a lot of those jobs. So I figured, why
Yeah.
not? I mean, I just want to
Yeah.
help.
Yeah. Right. And the great thing, what I love about what you're doing, and to your point, what's different is you're helping set some of those expectations for the candidate who's looking to move into those positions and really kind of helping carve out what the role is, what it looks like, what you do in that role. It's like a whole new job market segment.
Yeah. And there's a lot of roles that I've signed contracts with that I didn't
Hmm.
realize completely exactly what that meant.
Yeah.
And it's not until you get into the role because a lot of the startup companies, you might be hired for a specific role, but really you're doing 10 other different things. So you end up
Hmm.
learning a lot of different roles within that one role. So that's kind
Right.
of where I've grabbed a lot of those little pieces and those nuggets and I've
Hmm.
put them all in one manual so that I can kind of just like spread my knowledge and everything I know and everything
Yeah.
I'm still learning and growing, but I can just spread it
Right.
and help other people make that pivot a little less brutal.
Yeah, for sure. So, to that point, what sort of people do you think would be great candidates for you to mentor them, for you to coach them? What sort of background and skills do they need a master's in AI technology? What do you look for when you're looking for the right person?
I don't look at their degrees. They just have to
Mhm.
be some type of dental professional, right? Even
Okay.
dental managers, dental
Mhm.
assistants, dental hygienists,
Yeah.
dentists. What's most important is their years of experience. I would say
Mhm.
anywhere around 6+ years to make sure they
Yeah.
have some years under their belt because really they're bringing in their knowledge and what they know and the softwares they've used with
Mhm.
that. So if you don't have
Right.
any experience, and I would encourage you to obviously first, try to master that and, wet your feet in that, learn and
Mhm.
grow as much as you can. And then kind of pivot into the AI space. But before then, I
Hmm.
don't think it would be valuable to you or anybody within, those companies because they really need some like people that are hygienists or any dental professionals that really understand the space and have been in the
Hmm.
space for some time.
Right. Yep. So let's say there's someone who has been, in office administration for 10 years plus, and they've used a lot of different software systems, but they haven't really dabbled into AI yet. What advice or steps would you give to them to do in order to evaluate, like maybe they're interested, but it's like chat GPT just asking question level. Where would you advise them to go next, and what sort of skills do they need to pick up to kind of move forward?
I would say really look into all of the software AI companies that are out there, any
Mhm.
company that's out there that's within your scope, right? And what I
Yeah.
mean by that is everything you would normally use, right? You do phone
Yeah.
calls, right? You check insurances. So there's a lot of different companies that are within the front office realm,
Mhm.
right? So I would say
Right.
look into those companies, get some demos, see what that's like. How does that look like? How can you contribute to those companies, right? Is it your knowledge based on insurances? Is your knowledge, your verbiage, your scheduling skills?
Mhm.
There's so much that you can offer. I would say get familiar and start following all of those companies first to see if that's something
Yeah.
that you would like and something you
Mhm.
see yourself doing, and then go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, like you, a lot of people have the same initial ignorance. And because of the
Yeah.
speed of the evolution of things, people don't really know what jobs are out there with AI that can relate to them. Do you have like a list on your website of, here's the kind of roles you might be able to, pick up with some coaching or with the right information?
Yeah, it is in my website. There are specific roles that you can look for within
Yeah.
the space that you may not know how they're called exactly, right? Like as a dental hygienist,
Right.
you just Google, dental hygienist, like open
Right.
jobs, right? But then what do you search for when you're trying to look for these AI jobs? Like do just search like dental
Right.
AI jobs because that's kind of what I was searching in the beginning and I wasn't really finding anything. And
Right.
now everything's like growing and booming, but yeah, there's
Yeah.
definitely specific roles and it's all on my website. It gives you ideas as to what
Yeah.
to look for. Some of those roles are kind of out there and they're ready for you to apply. And some of them are kind of like word of mouth and who they know. So it really depends. But I would say the
Mhm.
best thing you
Yep.
can do is just network with these companies, go into different associations or walk through
Mhm.
different conventions or different summits and see what's out there so that you can really network with them because then you'll really know
Yeah.
and understand and get to familiarize yourself with different things that are going on and what's getting out there, you know?
Mhm. For sure. I know in like the short amount of months that I've known you, it's apparent that you have a heart for helping people and really seeing people reach their potential. Like it's obviously a drive inside of you. And so I wonder, how do you take on these mentorships and coaching? Like, what does that look like to the person you're mentoring?
I So I have three different types of program.
Yeah.
One is self-guided. It's one manual. You can do it yourself. Not everybody is completely ready to completely pivot. But my main coaching mentorship program is 4 weeks. And within the four
Hmm.
weeks, we go through everything week by week. We go through resume building, LinkedIn optimization. We look at you and what you've done, your history. And I really get to know you so that I can better match you and better introduce you to other companies because
Hmm.
I wouldn't want to just give you any company that's kind of hiring
Yeah.
out there because then
See
it
where there's a
wouldn't
fit.
be, yeah,
Yep.
see where there's a fit because then that way you have the potential to actually get a job,
Right.
something that you would actually really enjoy. And, someone is looking for someone who has experience, I can see where the connection is. And towards the end of it, I just introduce you to a few companies that are a really good match, and then go from there.
In your own journey, looking back on your history of how you got here, what did that transition actually look like behind the scenes?
I I think I interviewed a couple times to get my first job, and after that, I interviewed, but I always got every job I've ever
Mhm.
had, and or I was recommended. And because I had so many years of experience, it was never really a question. It was like I was temping and they would tell me, Maria, like, I need you, I want you to work with us, right? And it was always
Right.
like,
Yep.
who can pay me more and where would I be happiest, right? It kind of
Right.
boiled down to that. But
Yeah.
I think I had to humble myself a little bit, because even though I was in the dental space and it was still
Mhm.
in dentistry, it was completely different. And I think I forgot about that. And
Yeah.
I interviewed a few times in the beginning prior to getting my master's or going to school. And I
Yeah.
realized, wow, like this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. And I cried a lot in the process. And
Aw.
everything was a learning experience. And I just, kept pulling myself up. It's like, I'm going to make it. I'm going to get there. I got my
Mhm.
master's. And even through going through school, I was still heavily interviewing and I was still not landing a job. It's not
Mhm.
until towards the end that I kind of really understood the industry a little bit more within the interview questions. And
Mhm.
I realized, okay, clinical is not like working as an independent consultant, because it's not. And the whole time I kind of kept saying, I am looking for a full-time job and I'm looking for benefits, and I need to get paid
Mhm.
more because I'm getting a master's. And I was shooting myself in the foot every single time, because that's not what they
Right.
were looking for. They didn't want you to
Right.
obviously like say that, but it's true, right? Like
Yeah.
you're not
Right.
a hygienist. Like you are, but you're not applying for a hygiene role. You're applying for a
Right.
completely different role, and that looks completely different. So I just
Yeah.
didn't understand I had to be more flexible. And it's not until I understood that
Mhm.
that I actually landed my role. And that's part of what I go
Yeah.
through when I coach other dental professionals.
Okay. That's awesome. So, in your expertise, since you've lived through this now, what skills do you believe are transferable from dental professionals? What do they underestimate maybe about themselves when they transition into a non clinical, tech focused kind of role?
Yeah. Other than, I mean, from the obvious, right? Like imaging, right? You understand whether you're a doctor or not.
Yeah.
Almost everyone who has been in the industry for some time, you understand how to read decay, how to read certain things on the x-rays. You understand insurances to a certain extent. You
Right.
understand the how to care for a patient, how to empathize. Like your role as a dental professional like gives you all of everything they're looking for, because a lot of these companies actually don't have a dentist running it. Some do.
Hmm.
Some
Yeah.
some some CEO founders are doctors, and I think
Hmm.
they have the rare advantage, right? Because they
Yeah.
understand the industry and they know
Hmm.
exactly based on prior, like their experience, they're building their software based on their experience, which speaks
Hmm.
1,000 words, right? But a lot of these companies don't have clinical advisors. They don't have anybody within the dental space, and you could be that
Hmm.
advisor, that mentor, that independent consultant that helps them view their software differently, right? Because
Hmm.
someone who's building that software may be awesome at building, but if they don't understand the clinical aspect of it, and if they've never
Yep.
seen a patient, and if they've never actually been in it, they can't really understand what works and what doesn't, no matter how
Hmm.
great of a technologist or, developer they are.
Right. For sure. I'm curious, have you helped dental practices actually implement different AI tools, or are you working more on the vendor, the business side of things?
I have helped different dental teams and practices with implementation
Mhm.
um, through like working myself. That's not something
Mhm.
I do independently, but I do help other doctors and I help other companies do that and I help
Mhm.
implement their software. So with Isaac, I help them with implementation as well. So if someone purchases our software, I help with demos, implementation. All of that
Yeah.
comes with, with the product.
Mhm.
So I
Okay.
help implement that the products and help demo and help with the developing as well.
Mhm. In your experience doing that, have you seen any issues or failure on adoption or adaptation when it comes to the dental practice getting things implemented? Because we've been around long enough where we know not everyone in a dental practice is on board with whatever decision is made. And sometimes there's pushback from different staff members. Why do we have to change? The way we do it is fine.
Yeah,
Those sorts of things. Have you experienced any like failure to launch
yeah,
moments?
absolutely. I mean, not only as a provider myself, because I saw working with a large DSO how their AI products that they're trying to implement in anything, even if it's not
Yeah,
AI, right? You think about a new
right.
whitening solution or a new scanner,
Yeah.
right? The 3D scanners, I remember that was one thing that they were trying to adopt in our company and people were
Mhm.
just like, well, I can do impressions faster because this is just not it's not easy, right? And
Mhm.
every software, every product goes through that. It's something you see always. But I think the offices that are most successful are the ones that keep at it and they have kind of like
Mhm.
a cheerleader or someone to really be the person who kind of owns the product
Mhm.
and all of the team members. Because if you don't have someone that will actually follow up with the products or what you're doing and kind of just remind everyone, hey, I know this is hard, right? Like, this is what we have to do. This is part of it, right? Help with training, help with
Mhm.
implementing, help with just keeping everyone accountable, then it's
Yeah.
just not going to work.
Yeah.
So if you have, some doctors are really good at it and they keep everyone accountable and they remind everyone in huddle, right? But
Mhm.
not every practice is like that. But I feel like you
Right.
really need that one person, that one individual who's going to dedicate their time during the day to do that, because then that's the only way that you're going to keep everyone using it. They have to make sure that they use it and keep them accountable.
Mhm.
That's the only way that they're going to be able to implement this and be successful with it. And
Yeah.
then it becomes part of their day, right? But it's not until, what do they say? It's 21 days to make things a habit, right? So
Right. Yep.
if kind of like losing weight, going to the gym, right? All of those
Yeah.
things that you do on a daily basis, like you have to give yourself grace, but you have to be consistent. If you're
Mhm.
not consistent, if your team members are not consistent, if everyone's not talking the same language, then it's just going to fail, right? So
Right.
that's from that point of view, in terms of like working from the software development side, yes, we've
Mhm.
definitely seen products like not fully launched because they're not adopting it and they're not doing what they said they're going to do, or they gave up too soon, right? Like, yes, it's
Mhm.
going to get harder before it gets easier, but it does get easier and it gets to the
Right.
point that it just becomes routine. So, but you just
Yeah.
have to go through the hurdle to get there.
Yeah. What are some of the successes on the flip side, the most meaningful ways you've seen AI get implemented into a dental practice? What does success look like with AI?
I think trying to adopt maybe one AI software at a time.
Mhm.
Think people get really excited and it seems simple, right? Like you go to a
Right.
convention or you walk through something and you're like, oh, I want to bring this to my team. And you
Yeah.
bring like two, three, four different things and you just can't implement everything at once. You
So
become more
true.
successful if everyone understands that it's there to help them.
Mhm.
Where is it going to help? How is it going to help? If they truly
Mhm.
understand how it works, and you can have someone to hold everyone accountable, and you can pull through as a team, then they become more successful, and it's easier. But
Mhm.
I think if you try to implement more than one, it's really hard.
Yeah. Definitely. I've seen that on both in the practice and on the vendor side. People, they want it all. They want the all-in-one everything together, and but really when they start trying to implement it, they get stuck because it's like squirrel in every direction.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and they
they
don't
can't.
understand
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a really good point. Any new technology that the dental practice gets, definitely give yourself time. I think a lot of offices, you know, definitely take care of the patients, but you have to carve out some time for
Yeah.
continuing education for your team and actually set aside an hour uninterrupted where you're
Yep.
not answering the phones and not
You
checking
got
in
it.
and checking out and all of that.
Yeah.
That's the biggest issue I've seen is dental practices. They're like, yeah, we'll add this new thing and it'll just be like, I'll know it like old hat, back of my hand. But
Right.
it's never, ever true. There's always nuances and differences, and they don't plan the time in to make sure
Yeah.
it's successful. And yeah, revenue is important and all of that, but the cost that is associated with not planning to implement those new tools, I think sets you back even further.
I mean, it's all an investment, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
you're carving out time. It means less patience, but at the same time, if they understand it and they're confident in using whatever product you're trying
Mhm.
to implement, then they're going to be more successful. And eventually, that's going to set your office apart and or
Mhm.
increase revenue as well.
Right, exactly. So I have a question for you that is I think the most exciting question. So what AI are you seeing? What new tools are out there that is like, wow, that's so cool. I wish I was working in an office so I could use that myself. It would have made my life so much better. What are you seeing out there?
Oof, there is a lot.
So much.
I mean, I started with the automated period charting, so I was already using it as a provider. So that part, I didn't have to call a dental assistant to chart with me, which was great.
Yeah.
I didn't have imaging at the time that I was practicing. It's now that they signed the contracts and whatnot, and they're using it more and more
Mhm.
in practices. But I also saw in the revenue cycle management, there's a lot going on there. And
Yep.
I wish I would have had that because I was that one hygienist who kind of did it all so that my patient didn't have to wait. So I learned
Yeah.
insurances. I would answer the phones. I would call. I would dread the phones. That's definitely something I would appreciate because
You're like, I don't miss that.
when I
Yeah.
didn't have a patient, they would give me a list and it's like, call these patients for treatment planning. I mean, now you have bots that will generate a list and they will call
Mhm.
automatically and they talk
Mhm.
like a human being and they interact with the patients and they book the patients in the schedule as well. So,
Right.
and I think that's one of those parts that I really didn't enjoy so much because I kind of cringed at the moment, like, hey, I'm calling from the dental office. I'm calling because you have pending treatment. And it just
Mhm.
seems very salesy. And I just didn't like it. It was
Yeah.
just not my cup of tea. But
Yep.
there is a lot of software that does that for you already and it's fully
Mhm.
automated. So I kind of wish I had that and the
Yeah.
insurances too, because a lot of times I was calling insurances before my patient comes and I was explaining it to
Mhm.
patients so that they
Yep.
understood it, so that they weren't surprised why they were paying a co-payment or whatnot,
Right.
right? So that they're
Mhm.
not screaming at my front desk. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely a lot of tools that are out there now that I wish I had and I wish I could experience as a clinician because it would
Mhm.
make my job so much easier and I could really focus on patient care instead of
Yeah.
focusing on all these dynamics and everything's happening in the background. But yeah, there's a lot and it could be overwhelming too.
Yeah. For sure. And again, like that's to your point. Don't go buy 4 tools at once. Pick one.
Yeah.
Where do you need the most help? Or maybe what's the easiest to implement and start there?
Yeah. Just see what your practice is lacking. See where you could use more help, where you could use more
Mhm.
hands. See what your staff is complaining about the most, right? Do
Yeah.
you have a lot of hygienists that are complaining about not having help perio charting, or you have the front desk saying that they're just like drowning in phone calls and they can't get to insurances, or
Mhm.
they can't get to the recares? Do you have a lot of open spots? So really look at your practice, see where you're lacking, listen to your staff, see what they're suggesting and where they need help, and then go from there.
Mhm. Definitely. What else would you like the dental community to know about you, your products, your services, your company?
I know that when people ask me like, "What exactly do you do?" It's because I do so much
Right.
and I'm still trying to find my way.
Mhm.
I've been very blessed to work with a lot of companies. I do work fractionally, which means I'm not full time with one company as of
Yeah.
yet. I don't know how that would look like 3 years down the line, but for now, I do enjoy working with different companies. I do product development for some. I'm a CTO for another, and I'm a clinical advisor for some, and I just help different companies achieve different things depending on what that looks like and if I can help them. We go from there. But yeah, and then I have my coaching
Yeah.
business on the side as well, helping clinicians pivot to non-clinical roles.
That's amazing. And I I think that, a lot of people are afraid like AI is taking over jobs, but really I see it as AI creating a lot of jobs and opportunities. Would you agree that it's probably creating more jobs and more new opportunities?
Absolutely. I think it makes you more efficient too. I mean, if you think about ChatGPT, Gemini, and all of these different, Claude, like all of these different platforms, right?
Mhm.
You wouldn't be able to write something. You still need the person to input the information, right?
Right.
But you
Yeah.
kind of have to direct it. I wanted to do it this way. I wanted to say this, and I wanted to really have this feeling or whatever that looks like, but you're
Mhm.
directing it, right?
Right.
It's not creating by itself. So it's facilitating a lot of the processes. So I think it's definitely there to create more jobs, and it's easier for you to do your job.
Mhm.
Um, can you imagine, kind of like life without calculators? Like, can you do
Right.
it? Yes, but would it be easier to get to a solution with a calculator? Yes, but
Yeah.
are there jobs like actually completely taking over? I mean, you still need human beings to, they have the empathy factor, they have all these
Mhm.
factors that like computers don't give us, right? But it really
Right.
does facilitate a lot of the end result. It's going to grow. So I
Mhm.
think you might as well kind of hop on and learn and grow with it, versus kind of falling behind and
Mhm.
kind of not knowing what's going on. But
Yeah.
I don't think it's there to fully eliminate your position or job. They still need you.
Right.
It's going to allow and create the opportunity to be able to empathize and be there more with the patient versus having to
Mhm.
worry about everything else.
Exactly. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more on that. Where do you see the dental offices who don't adopt AI solutions? Like, let's say 10 years from now, they're still like, no, no AI for us. Do you see that as a detriment to them?
I don't think so. And I'll tell you,
Okay.
not per se.
Yeah.
They're just kind of be there. They're going to be there. Kind of like
Yeah.
if you think about sensors, right? You
Yeah.
still have offices that have not adopted sensors, right?
So true.
And they're just
Hmm.
there, right? Like they have their clients or their patients, but it's really hard to grow without having that technology because you're kind of like not growing with the herd. You're kind of just kind of there.
Hmm.
And in a way, you're kind of falling behind. So I think
Hmm.
it's definitely a disservice in a way, because why not add more technology to what you're already doing, and
Hmm.
giving that more of a service to your patients. But I think they're not completely obsolete either. They're just there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Kind of like
Yeah.
those officers, like, I don't think they're going anywhere. A lot of people are now looking for those offices that are implementing, technology. They're up to speed with everything. You don't have to have
Hmm.
everything, but, at
Right.
least becoming aware and having an AI tool to help your staff and,
Hmm.
help with patient care is, I think, really important. And I think patients see that too. And they see the efforts in the companies and offices that do have
Hmm.
those softwares
Yeah.
available. Whereas those, offices that don't really implement anything, they're just kind of what we call outdated, right? Oh, they're
Right.
just there, they're outdated, and they're not really doing anything
Yeah.
to grow. But I think they're just gonna phase out over time, right?
Hmm.
Like as
Yeah.
new owners take over practices, more and more AI tools are going to take over, and those offices without AI tools are just going to phase out. And as these doctors or dental professionals that are not wanting to use any AI tools, as they
Hmm.
retire, those practices phase out, and somebody else takes
Yeah.
over, and then they bring in new technology, and you know
Right.
you kind of get it
Yep.
rolling. So I think it's just a matter of time, kind of like the sensors
Hmm.
analogy,
Right.
that we're just going to see less and less
Yeah.
opportunities there to grow. But I don't know. I think they're just
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. If you think about it from the patient's perspective, some of those tools are public facing. A lot of those tools are not, but there's a perception there about how easy things were with the practice that is streamlined and using some tech versus the
Yeah.
practice that's not. Just like online scheduling. I am one of those people that goes online at midnight to book my appointments. I
Yeah.
don't want to have to pick up the phone and call. Please don't make me. And that's just, like when you're on the phone and you do that kind of stuff all day, you don't want to get home and have
That
to
makes
make
sense.
another phone
Yeah.
call, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I kind of equate it to something like that, where as a patient, if you've made my life easier and taken out the friction points, I feel the difference, even though I don't
Yeah.
know if it's AI, I don't know what tools you're using. I feel the difference in the access and the lack of friction there versus other offices that aren't adopting technology. You have to
Yeah.
only call between this time and that time. And there's one person who answers the phone, and you get put on hold, and they have to
Oh,
call you
yeah.
back, and you're not available, and like the
Yeah.
whole rigmarole of that. So I kind
Yeah.
of equate it to tech in general, like the frictionless
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
The access to care definitely goes down because you just
Mhm.
can't, as a human being, you just can't answer the phone. And
Right.
also it kind of
Yeah.
removes the, like, have you ever called an office and that person's just not having a good day? And it
Yes.
happens, right? We're human
Yeah.
beings, and it
Yeah.
just like ruins your day. You're like, I'm not going to that office, or you already have it
Yeah.
for that patient. You're like, who is that person?
Right.
And it just ruins the experience for the patient as well.
Yep.
So I think
Yeah.
it just removes that factor, that from the equation as well. So yeah,
Mhm.
to your point,
Yep.
it does make sense.
Yeah. Or even as a patient, when you're having a bad day and then you have to sit on hold, and
Oh,
then
you're right.
and you're like
You're
Sally at the
right.
front desk, she's like, "Oh,
Ugh.
why did you make me wait so long?" And then you give them attitude, and you're like, "Oh my god, I know they put something in my chart about my bad
Yes.
phone behavior today."
That's happened to me before. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, it's
Like you
hard.
said, we all have our moments.
Yep.
So, yeah, just eliminating some of those points of friction.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think to me, that's one of the most valuable aspects of adopting new tech, is just to be able to remove the roadblocks for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been so much fun, Maria. Thank you so much for schooling us on AI and some of the stuff that's coming, the stuff that's exciting. Do you do a newsletter or anything like that that people can subscribe and just kind of watch what you're up to?
I do. I do. I have a newsletter that comes out every month.
Okay, awesome. We will make sure to get your link, and when we publish this, and everyone will be able to follow you and see what the new trends are, what the emerging technology is, and maybe look for some new career opportunities if they're,
Yeah.
ready to move on from clinical or, burnt out on what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
It's been a pleasure, Maria. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.